Some people just aren't meant for this industry, Drew announced, leaning back in his chair as the conference room fell quiet. I've given you chance after chance, Melanie, but your work consistently fails to meet standards. The formal warning goes in your file today. 30 colleagues avoided my eyes. My throat closed as if someone had wrapped their fingers around it. I'd been blindsided in the weekly department meeting, a public execution designed to humiliate me in front of everyone I'd worked with for 4 years. The document he pushed across to me stated I'd failed to meet basic performance requirements and demonstrated ongoing incompetence. But what it didn't say was the truth. I'd discovered his dangerous decision to skip critical safety protocols. Before we continue, I want to thank everyone listening. Drop a comment telling me where you're tuning in from. I'm always amazed how these stories reach people from different corners of the world. My name is Melanie. I worked as a quality assurance specialist for one of the largest consumer electronics companies in the country. I was known for my attention to detail. Friends called me Microscope Mel because I could spot the tiniest flaws others missed. This perfectionism made me excellent at my job, but awful at letting things go. I grew up in a small town where my dad fixed farm equipment. He taught me that doing things right meant doing them safely. Shortcuts get people hurt, he'd say, while showing me how to properly check hydraulic lines or secure equipment. This wasn't just philosophy. His brother lost 3 fingers when someone rushed a repair job. When I started my career, I carried this value with me. I believed in the company's mission of creating safe, reliable products. For 4 years, I thrived. My performance reviews sparkled with praise like meticulous, thorough, and committed to excellence. 3 promotions later, I became the lead quality specialist for our newest product line. Everything changed when Drew Hudson transferred from the company's overseas division. He replaced my previous manager, Irene, who retired after 20 years. Where Irene valued thoroughness, Drew worshipped speed. We're not in the business of perfection, he announced during his first team meeting. We're in the business of delivery dates. In the beginning, I gave him the benefit of doubt. Maybe his aggressive timelines would push us to be more efficient without sacrificing quality. I volunteered for extra projects, stayed late, and learned to streamline my review processes. For 2 months, we maintained an uneasy balance. Then came the Horizon project. Horizon was our new flagship product, a health monitoring device worn against the skin. The company had invested millions in development, and executives expected it to dominate the market. Drew had personally promised the CEO a release date 6 weeks earlier than originally planned. My team received the final prototype on a Tuesday morning. We had 7 days for complete quality testing before manufacturing began, less than half our normal timeline. Don't overthink this, Drew told us. It's essentially the same technology as the previous model with minor upgrades. Standard testing protocol should suffice. But it wasn't the same technology. The new power system generated significantly more heat during extended use. By day 3 of testing, I noticed something concerning. Under certain conditions, the device housing could reach temperatures that might cause skin burns. I documented the issue and ran additional tests to confirm. The results were consistent. Under specific conditions, the device became dangerously hot. This required either a design modification or stronger warning labels at minimum. When I brought my findings to Drew, he glanced at my report for less than 30 seconds. This is within acceptable parameters, he said, sliding the tablet back to me. But the temperature exceeds our safety threshold by 4.8 degrees, I pointed out. That's enough to cause second-degree burns with prolonged contact. Drew's smile never reached his eyes. The test conditions you created are extreme. No real user would operate the device that way. The conditions replicate someone sleeping while wearing it, which our marketing specifically promotes. He leaned forward, then, lowering his voice. Melanie, do you understand what's at stake here? The CEO personally approved my timeline. A design change would delay production by months. But if someone gets hurt, I've made my decision. We're proceeding as scheduled. I left his office sick to my stomach. That night, I barely slept. I reviewed the company policy manual until 3 a.m. and found that safety concerns could be escalated directly to the compliance department if a manager's response was inadequate. The next morning, I submitted my findings to compliance with copies of all test results. The email went to Compliance Director Pamela Ortiz and included Drew as required by protocol. 20 minutes later, Drew appeared at my desk. His usual corporate pleasantness had vanished. My office. Now, I followed him down the hallway, heart pounding. He closed the door behind us. You went over my head. His voice was eerily calm. I followed safety escalation procedures, I replied, trying to sound confident. Our policy requires. I know the policy. I also know when someone's trying to undermine me. He stared at me like I was something stuck to his shoe. You had concerns. I addressed them. That should have been the end of it. The data shows a genuine safety risk. It's my responsibility to... Your responsibility is to your team, to this company, to me. He pointed at his chest. And now you've created a paper trail that suggests I ignored safety concerns. Do you have any idea what that does to my standing with leadership? That wasn't my intention. Intentions don't matter in business, Melanie. Results do. And the result of your actions is a compliance investigation that will delay production and cost us millions. He was right about one thing. Compliance suspended the Horizon launch pending review. Engineers confirmed my findings and recommended design modifications to the cooling system. The timeline Drew promised the executives became impossible, and he made sure I paid for it. The retaliation started subtly. My name disappeared from meeting invites. When I asked why, Drew said they were strategy sessions that didn't require quality input. Team members stopped including me in lunch plans. Project updates came to me late, leaving me scrambling to complete reviews on impossible deadlines. Then came the criticism. Every report I submitted returned with demands for revisions. Documentation that had previously been praised as thorough was now unnecessarily detailed and inefficient. During team meetings, Drew questioned my methods in front of colleagues. Melanie, these testing parameters seem excessive. Can you explain why you're wasting resources on this? Before I could answer thoroughly, he'd move on, leaving the impression of incompetence hanging over me. Other team members watched this pattern and started distancing themselves. Nobody wanted to be associated with the person in the manager's crosshairs. The isolation grew worse each week. Conversations stopped when I approached. Coworkers who previously sought my advice now avoided eye contact in the hallways. 3 months after the Horizon incident, Drew scheduled my performance review. Unlike previous years when my manager and I discussed goals and achievements together, Drew had already completed the evaluation before I entered the room. Below expectations in all categories, he announced, sliding the document toward me. Your performance has declined dramatically this quarter. I stared at the page in disbelief. Even in areas where I had measurable success, he'd marked me as failing. This doesn't reflect my actual work, I said. The Phoenix component tests were completed 2 days early with 0 defects identified. The testing methodology was flawed, he replied without looking up. The results can't be trusted. The methodology was identical to what we've used for 3 years. He sighed as if explaining something to a child. This attitude is exactly the problem, Melanie. You're resistant to feedback and difficult to work with. Everyone's saying it. Who is everyone? I've never received complaints about being difficult before. That's not something I'm at liberty to discuss. Sign the review, please. I didn't sign. Instead, I wrote a detailed rebuttal, citing specific projects, metrics, and outcomes that contradicted his assessment. The next day, he reassigned half my projects to other team members, saying my workload needed adjustment to match my capabilities. The message was clear. Oppose him, and he'd dismantle my career piece by piece. As weeks passed, the pressure intensified. Deadlines for my remaining projects suddenly changed overnight, making my work appear late. Documents I needed mysteriously became unavailable until hours before deliverables were due. When I delivered work under these impossible conditions, Drew would find fault regardless of quality. This analysis lacks depth, he announced when I provided the testing summary for our newest component. I had less than 4 hours with the specs, I reminded him. You moved the deadline up yesterday. Planning your time efficiently is part of the job, he replied. Sounds like you're making excuses again. The stress began taking a physical toll. I developed insomnia, waking at 3 a.m. with my heart racing, mentally rehearsing the day ahead. I lost weight. Friends asked if I was sick. In a way, I was sick with anxiety, sick with dread, sick with the constant feeling of walking on eggshells. One Tuesday morning, I found an unsigned note on my keyboard. Nobody wants to work with you anymore. Why don't you just quit? I looked around the office, searching faces for the author, but everyone was focused on their screens. The isolation had become a physical presence that followed me through the building. That evening, I called my oldest friend, Vanessa, in tears. "I don't understand what's happening," I sobbed. "One minute, I'm a valued team member. The next, I'm treated like I'm radioactive. Have you talked to HR?" she asked. I had, twice. The first time, the representative listened sympathetically, but suggested it might be a communication style mismatch between Drew and me. The second time, I was told they'd look into it, but nothing changed. Now, I suspected Drew had allies there too. "What about finding another job?" Vanessa suggested. "I've started applying, but Drew's making it impossible. Last week, a recruiter told me they'd called for a reference, and Drew told them I was technically incompetent and unreliable. He's poisoning my reputation throughout the industry." Vanessa was quiet for a moment. "You need to protect yourself, Mel. Start documenting everything." That night, I created a detailed log of every incident since the Horizon report. Dates, times, witnesses, exact quotes. I searched my email archives for evidence of timeline changes and contradictory instructions. What emerged was a clear pattern of targeted harassment. I also learned our state had one-party consent for recordings. I could legally record conversations without informing Drew. The next day, I downloaded a recording app on my phone. When Drew called me into his office for one of his attitude adjustment meetings, I pressed record before sitting down. "Close the door," he said, not looking up from his computer. I did, then sat in the chair across from his desk. He made me wait nearly 2 minutes before acknowledging me. "Melanie, we need to discuss the testing delay on the Archer components." "There was no delay," I replied. "I submitted the report yesterday, ahead of the original timeline. The timeline changed. The team needed those results Monday. I was never informed of any change." He leaned back, looking almost amused. "Communication goes both ways. You need to stay connected with the team instead of working in isolation. I've been excluded from planning meetings for the past month because your negative attitude disrupts the collaborative environment we're trying to maintain." He folded his hands on his desk. "Look, Melanie, this isn't working. You just don't understand how things work here." For 30 minutes, he detailed my supposed failures, interrupted my responses, and shifted blame onto me for situations he had engineered. I let him talk, my phone silently capturing every word. This became our new routine. Weekly criticism sessions, behind closed doors, always without witnesses, where his behavior differed dramatically from his public persona. In team meetings, he maintained professional courtesy while subtly undermining me. In private, the mask came off. "Let's be honest," he said during one recorded session. "Your career here is finished. The only question is whether you leave on your own or wait to be pushed out." "Is that a threat?" I asked quietly. "It's a reality check. I've spoken with the department heads. No one wants to work with you after the Horizon debacle. You're seen as disloyal, someone who throws teammates under the bus." I reported a legitimate safety concern through proper channels. "You embarrassed the company and cost us millions in redesign expenses. I potentially prevented customer injuries." He laughed. "Always the hero in your own story, aren't you? Tell yourself whatever helps you sleep." Over the next 2 months, I accumulated 17 recordings of private meetings, dozens of emails showing changed instructions and timelines, and a daily log detailing the ongoing hostility. Meanwhile, my health continued deteriorating. My doctor diagnosed me with stress-induced gastritis and anxiety. When I developed hives across my neck and face, she suggested medical leave. "Your body is telling you something important," she said. "Listen to it." I took 3 weeks of medical leave, using the time to consult with an employment attorney. Jada Ellis specialized in workplace harassment cases. After reviewing my evidence, she confirmed what I suspected. "This is textbook retaliation," she said. "The timing is clear. The negative treatment began immediately after you reported the safety issue." "What should I do?" I asked. "First, we send a formal complaint to the company's legal department documenting the retaliatory pattern. Then we consider a complaint with the state labor board. They take whistleblower retaliation very seriously." "Will I keep my job?" Jada's expression softened. "Honestly, Melanie, that environment is toxic. Even if we force them to stop the retaliation, working there will remain difficult. but we can fight for severance and ensure Drew faces consequences. I knew she was right. The thought of returning made me physically ill, but something else troubled me deeply. What about the safety issue? Drew buried my report, convinced compliance it was an overreaction, and pushed the product forward anyway. That's a separate but related issue. If the company ignored genuine safety concerns, we can report that to regulatory authorities. The day my medical leave ended, I submitted my resignation along with a detailed complaint to the legal department, outlining Drew's retaliation. I included selected recordings that clearly demonstrated his behavior. 2 days later, I received a call from the company's senior legal counsel, Tyler. "We've reviewed your materials and would like to discuss a separation agreement," he said carefully. "I'm listening. We can offer 3-month severance, extended health benefits, and neutral employment references." "That's not adequate given the circumstances," I replied, following Jada's coaching. "And it doesn't address the safety concerns that initiated this situation." Tyler's tone sharpened. "Miss Melanie, the company stands by our safety testing protocols. The Horizon modifications were made out of an abundance of caution, not necessity. The test results showed potential for second-degree burns. Those findings were deemed inconclusive by our engineering team." I realized then that Drew's narrative had prevailed internally. The company was protecting him and itself. My resignation had been their easy out, problem gone, case closed. I declined their offer. Instead, with Jada's guidance, I filed formal complaints with the State Labor Commission, alleging whistleblower retaliation. Then I did something that would change everything. I submitted my original safety report, testing data, and evidence of Drew's suppression efforts to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Finding a new job proved nearly impossible. Drew had connections throughout the industry, and subtle warnings about me spread through professional networks. 3 promising interviews ended with polite rejection emails. Recruiters stopped returning my calls. At my lowest point, I moved back to my hometown, took a job at the local hardware store, and wondered if standing up for safety had been worth destroying my career. Then came a phone call that changed everything. "Is this Melanie?" The woman's voice was brisk, professional. "Yes, who's calling?" "My name is Diane Lopez. I'm an investigator with the State Labor Commission. We've reviewed your retaliation complaint and would like to interview you next week." That single call renewed my hope. Someone was taking my claims seriously. During our meeting, I provided Diane with all my evidence: the recordings, emails, timeline of events, and medical records showing the physical impact of the harassment. "This is unusually well documented," she noted, reviewing my materials. "Most cases come down to he said, she said, but you've provided clear evidence." "I had to protect myself," I explained. "No one else would." "The consumer safety report you filed, has there been any action on that?" "Not that I'm aware of." Diane made a note. "These cases often interconnect. If a company retaliates against safety reporting, there's usually more going on." She was right. 3 weeks later, I received another call, this time from the Consumer Product Safety Commission. They wanted a detailed statement about the Horizon testing and Drew's decision to proceed despite the identified risks. For the next 2 months, I heard nothing. I continued working at the hardware store, helping customers find the right screws and explaining the difference between paint finishes. The simplicity was soothing after years of corporate politics, though my bank account suffered. Then one evening, my former colleague Naomi texted me, "Are you watching what's happening?" I called her immediately. "What's going on?" The company's under federal investigation," she said, her voice low as if someone might overhear. "The consumer safety people showed up last week with warrants. They're reviewing every product that went through certification in the past 2 years." My heart pounded. And Drew? That's the best part. They scheduled his director promotion interview for today. He's been bragging for weeks about finally moving up. And he walked into the conference room expecting the executive team and found 2 government attorneys and an investigator instead. They had copies of your safety reports, his emails dismissing them, and recordings of him admitting he pushed products through despite concerns. I sank onto my couch, speechless. "Melanie, are you there?" "I'm here. What happened next?" "He was escorted out. Human Resources sent an email saying he's on administrative leave pending an investigation, but everyone knows he's finished." After we hung up, I sat in the dark, emotions swirling. This wasn't jubilation or triumph. It was quieter, more complex. A sense that truth, however delayed, had finally emerged. The next morning, my phone rang with an unfamiliar number. "Is this Melanie?" A man's voice, formal but kind. "Yes, it is. My name is Rajiv Mehta. I'm the new safety compliance director at your former company. I was hoping we could talk." "I've been reviewing the case files," Rajiv continued. "Your safety report was absolutely correct. The thermal issue you identified could have caused serious injuries. Had the product launched as planned, we estimate hundreds of customers might have been harmed." I gripped the phone tighter. "So the company finally believes me?" "More than that, the board has ordered a complete overhaul of our safety protocols. I was brought in specifically to implement new procedures that would prevent another situation like this. Your documentation is being used as a case study." The validation felt surreal after months of being treated like I was incompetent or paranoid. "There's another reason for my call," Rajiv said. "We'd like to offer you a position on the new compliance team. The role would report directly to me, with no connection to your former department." The offer stunned me. "I'm not sure what to say. Take some time to consider it. The position comes with a significant title and salary increase, plus a formal acknowledgement of your contribution to consumer safety." After we hung up, I sat motionless, trying to process this turn of events. Part of me wanted to accept immediately, to return triumphantly, vindicated and promoted. But another part remembered the anxiety, the isolation, the physical toll on my health. I called Jada for advice. "They're worried about liability," she explained. "Offering you a position might be their way of preventing a lawsuit, but that doesn't mean it's not a legitimate opportunity." "What about the Labor Commission investigation?" "That's proceeding regardless. They're not investigating just Drew. They're looking at systemic issues in the company. Your case opened a door." Over the next week, more details emerged. The federal investigation had expanded beyond just the Horizon product. Investigators discovered 3 other instances where safety concerns were minimized or hidden to meet production deadlines. The company's stock dropped 15% in 2 days as news of the probe became public. I arranged to meet Rajiv in person before making any decision about the job offer. We sat at a small cafe away from the company campus. "I appreciate the offer," I began, "but I need to understand what really happened with Drew. Why was he protected for so long?" Rajiv stirred his coffee thoughtfully. The culture rewarded delivery above all else. Drew produced results, or appeared to. His department consistently hit deadlines when others didn't. Executives noticed that, not the corners he was cutting, and no one questioned his methods. People who raised concerns tended to disappear from the organization. He created a fear-based environment where speaking up meant career suicide. Sound familiar? I nodded. "What happens to him now?" "He's been terminated. The board reviewed your recordings and other evidence. The legal team believes he may face personal liability for deliberately suppressing safety information." 2 days later, I received a call from Diane at the Labor Commission. "I wanted you to hear this directly from me," she said. "We've completed our investigation and found clear evidence of whistleblower retaliation. The company has agreed to a settlement rather than face public hearings." "What kind of settlement?" "A significant financial penalty, mandatory compliance training for all managers, and regular audits of their whistleblower protection practices for the next 5 years." I took a deep breath. "And Drew?" "We've referred his case to the district attorney's office for potential criminal negligence charges. Deliberately concealing product safety risks falls under criminal statutes in this state." The reality of what was happening hit me fully then. Drew wasn't just losing his job, he might be facing criminal prosecution. The system designed to protect consumers and employees was actually working. Later that day, I received an email from Pamela Ortiz, the original compliance director who had received my safety report months earlier. Her message was brief but direct. "I owe you an apology. I should have defended your findings more vigorously. I let myself be persuaded that your concerns were excessive. That was a failure on my part." Amidst these developments, I still hadn't decided about Rajiv's job offer. I scheduled a meeting with him to discuss the compliance team's new structure and authority. "The team now has direct reporting lines to the board," he explained. "No department manager can override safety findings or push a product forward without addressing identified concerns." "That sounds promising," I acknowledged. "But organizational charts change all the time. What happens when quarterly targets are missed and executives start looking for ways to speed things up?" That's exactly why we need people like you. Rajiv leaned forward. People who've seen the consequences of cutting corners and won't back down when pressured. His sincerity was convincing, but I still hesitated. I need more time. Of course, the position remains open. 2 weeks later, I received an unexpected visitor at the hardware store. A woman in her early 60s approached the counter where I was organizing inventory. "Are you Melanie?" she asked. "Yes. Can I help you find something?" She extended her hand. "I'm Gloria Jenkins. I'm on the board of directors at your former company." My surprise must have shown on my face. "I hope you don't mind my tracking you down," she continued. "I've been reviewing the safety investigation findings. Your report saved our company from a potential disaster." "I was just doing my job," I replied, "which is exactly why I'm here. The board is implementing comprehensive changes to our safety culture. We need people who understand the real purpose of quality control." She handed me a business card. "I'd like you to consider a senior position leading our new product safety division. Unlike Rajiv's offer, this role would report directly to the board." "Why me?" I asked. "There must be dozens of qualified people without my complicated history with the company." Gloria smiled slightly. "We don't want someone who fits in comfortably. We want someone who's proven they'll stand up for what's right, regardless of personal cost." She looked around the hardware store. "You had a promising career that was derailed because you refused to compromise on safety. That's exactly the integrity we need." After she left, I called Jada again to discuss both offers. She advised caution, but acknowledged the opportunity. If the role reports to the board with clear authority, it could be a genuine chance to create change, she said. "But document everything, always. Organizational memory is short, and today's hero can be tomorrow's target." While weighing my options, I received news that the Consumer Product Safety Commission had ordered a recall of 87,000 units of another product Drew had pushed through approval. The estimated cost to the company exceeded $15 million. That same week, a former team member reached out. Terry had been one of the colleagues who distanced himself during Drew's campaign against me. "I should have spoken up," he said when we met for coffee. "We all saw what was happening, but everyone was too afraid of becoming his next target." "Why are you telling me this now?" I asked. "Because I need to apologize, and because you should know that everyone respected what you did. After you left, people started talking more openly about Drew's methods. Your stand made others brave enough to finally speak up. It doesn't feel brave when you're losing everything," I admitted. "But you didn't lose," Terry pointed out. "You're the only one who came through this with your integrity intact." 3 months after filing my original complaints, I made my decision. I declined both job offers from my former company. Instead, I accepted a position with the State Consumer Protection Agency. The role paid less than the corporate offers, but would allow me to help implement safety standards across entire industries. On my first day, my new director introduced me to the team. "Melanie comes to us with unique insights into how companies sometimes prioritize profits over safety," she said. "Her experience will help us better identify potential issues before consumers are harmed." As for Drew, the consequences continued unfolding. The district attorney brought charges for knowingly concealing product safety information. The case never went to trial. He accepted a plea agreement that included a substantial fine, community service, and probation. More devastating for him, the agreement required public acknowledgement of his actions, which effectively ended any chance of another executive position. The company implemented all the promised changes to their safety protocols and paid a $4.2 million settlement to the Consumer Product Safety Commission. Their new advertising heavily emphasized their commitment to product safety, a direct response to the public relations damage from the investigation. 6 months into my new role, I received an email from Naomi with an article link. The headline read, "Former Executive Barred from Industry After Safety Scandal." Drew had been sanctioned by the Industry Certification Board, preventing him from holding any position with safety oversight for 5 years. "Thought you'd want to see this?" Naomi wrote, "People still talk about you here. You've become something of a legend, the quality specialist who brought down a director and changed the whole company." Her words should have felt triumphant, but my feelings were more complicated. I had never wanted to be a whistleblower or a symbol. I'd simply wanted to do my job protecting consumers from harm. The personal cost had been enormous. A derailed career path, financial setbacks from months of unemployment, friends and colleagues lost, and the lasting anxiety that still occasionally woke me at night. Yet I couldn't regret my decisions. Every time I saw a product recall announcement or read about safety improvements in consumer goods, I felt a quiet satisfaction knowing I'd contributed to a system that, however imperfectly, worked to protect people. In my new position, I began developing training programs to help quality specialists recognize when they were being pressured to compromise safety standards. I shared my story, anonymized but honest, as a case study in how retaliation works and how to document it effectively. Sometimes, doing the right thing costs nearly everything. My career trajectory changed permanently. My professional network fractured. Years of specialized expertise had to be adapted to a new field. But some things are worth protecting at any cost: consumer safety, professional integrity, and the basic human responsibility not to harm others for personal gain. My revenge wasn't orchestrating Drew's downfall. It was simply ensuring the truth came to light through proper channels. The legal system, designed to protect whistleblowers and consumers, worked exactly as intended once given the evidence it needed. The most powerful revenge wasn't anything I did personally. It was watching proper accountability unfold through established systems. If you're facing a similar situation, pressure to cut corners, retaliation for speaking up, isolation for doing what's right, document everything. Know your legal protections. Find allies outside your immediate environment. The path is difficult, but integrity matters. Thank you for listening to my story. If it resonated with you, please take a moment to like this video and subscribe to the channel. Every share helps someone else who might be facing workplace retaliation know they're not alone. Let me know in the comments if you've ever had to make a difficult ethical choice at work. Sometimes, just knowing others have faced similar challenges makes our own burdens easier to bear.